I tell you, before we get into reacting to this, gentlemen, I got to tell you what happened to me last night. I know we were all entrenched in this game, sitting on the edge of your seats, or if you were like me, you were laying in bed, surrounded by sleeping animals and fiance. And man, I'll tell you what I had on that last drive. I had the Bengals minus 3.5 points. I had them on a straight bet, my biggest one of the week, and I had them on a parlay. And I was, for those of you who watch Payday, if you do, you know, or Pay Dirt, excuse me, you got, if you were watching Pay Dirt, you got a Payday. That's what it really is. My boy Pay and I were playing each other in fantasy football. He's first in the league at 4-1. I'm 3-2. So it's a big game. I'm down just under 1 point on that last drive after Yoshi Vosh catches that first down from a perfect pass by Joe Burrow. And I'm like, I'm sweating. I'm like, they're going to get a first down. They're going to kneel. They're going to whatever. And boom, what happens? Chase Brown sees a gap, shoots through it, comes out 30 yards and a touchdown. I win the bet. I win the parlay. And I got a 9-point-something lead going into tonight against my boy Pay, who's got the kicker from Buffalo. So root for that Jets defense, everybody.
Yes, sir. Hey, that's phenomenal. By that story alone, the football gods just happened to have been on our side. It didn't work out for me so much. Yesterday's betting. Actually, I'll tell this. So I had a parlay. Didn't feature any Bengals players though. It featured Zay Flowers to get in the end zone. It featured Alvin Kamara to score a touchdown, and it also featured the tight end, one of the tight ends, I believe, from the New Orleans Saints. No, actually, not the Texans. The Dalton Schultz, the tight end for the Texans.
Yeah.
Man, they all put on a clinic with the scoring, and only one of those guys got in the end zone, and that was Alvin Kamara. And I was like, oh, see, I'm 0-12 still all time when it comes to parlays. I stink. I just need to stop doing it. And that was a parlay that I copied from somebody else, by the way. But I also did a Bengals game separately, just bet the money line. And what I decided to do was, because I feel like, you get in your head with those superstitions, right? So you like,
who are you talking to?
Every time I always bet the Bengals to win, they lose. And one time that I bet the Bengals to lose, I did it because I wanted to see if they were going to win, and they did against Carolina. I knew the Bengals should have beaten Carolina, but I wanted to bet the Carolina Panthers on the money line just in case. So even though we lose the game, I'll at least have a payout. I went about it the same way with the hope to lose this bet and win the game. Boy, I was sweating. I'm like, man, this is money I don't want to make right now. But we won the game. I lost the bet, thank God. I just paid $10 just to watch the Bengals win. That's how I look at it.
There you go. Listen, I had some sweet lost money this weekend too. Tim, I think you won some money this weekend too. Did I see that floating around out there? And one of our text threads.
Yeah, I made a bet on the Oregon Ducks and Buckeyes game because I didn't think that the Buckeyes were going to win it, and I was right, and I won my bet, so I'm good.
You were sweating on that last drive, though, weren't you? When they got
I was nervous, but as soon as I seen him slide down and that clock go to 0, it was all over. It was a hell of a game. It was a great game. I'm not an Ohio State fan. I usually normally root against Ohio State whenever they play anybody. But I think Oregon matched up really well against Ohio State, and I know a lot of the Ohio State, streamers and podcasters and all that stuff, and we're like, oh, Ohio State's defense is going to wreck them.
Yeah, I gotta be honest with you. I thought they would control the line of scrimmage a little better than they did. That's the reason why I bet on Ohio State. Yeah, what are you gonna do?
College football, man. I can't bet college football because it's either a blowout like crazy or it's an unexpected turn of a loss of events. Bro, Alabama almost lost again in South Carolina. I thought Boy, I thought Alabama was going to lose that when the South Carolina recovered the onside kick. I was like, wow, this is really about to happen. And
inexperience lost in that game, unfortunately for Sellers.
sure. Yeah.
They gave South Carolina 21.5 points with their quarterback coming back. I was like, there's no way they're gonna keep it closer than that. So I won on that. But listen, man, I'm telling you, I'm one of those I'm rare bird where I'm a Michigan fan and a Bengals fan. A little bit of an odd combo. I had one of those moments betting on Ohio State where he runs up there and slides in, and they call time, and I'm like, no. I just that's whatever. You can't get too upset about it.
Yeah, like we grew up in, all of us grew up in Ohio, and I'm sure we all, like, I'm a Notre Dame fan, Brandon's Michigan, Justin, you're a Cincinnati Bearcats fan.
I'm Cincinnati through and through. Yep.
So, like, I grew up in a household with Ohio State Buckeyes fan and Steelers.
That's Chase. Chase Young's Ohio State fan.
And I just can't. I couldn't do it as a kid, and I won't do it as an adult. I will be an Irish fan till the day I die, and I will be a Bengals fan till the day I die, no matter what.
I feel the same way about my teams, but it is what it is. It is what it is, man. Hey, let's before we get into everything, we want to thank you guys for tuning in. You've reached the Running Through the Jungle crew here on our Roaring Reactions and Coach's Cliffs Notes. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm over coach speak. Joe Burrow did say that they played like crap. It was unacceptable. They need to play better. Happy they got a win.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much what we're going to probably hear, unless you guys want to bring up something else with the coach speak portion of this, because it's really been the same old. But before we get into the nitty gritty here of our reactions, do us a favor, spend a couple seconds here, like, subscribe, rate, review, share us, tell a friend to tell a friend about where you get your Bengals information here at Running Through the Jungle Network. We appreciate you guys rocking with us all the time. We needed that game, obviously. I mean, the most important thing was to go to 2-4, not to stay at 1-5 with the Cleveland Browns. Pittsburgh Steelers pull off another game, against the Las Vegas Raiders. I've called them everything but Las Vegas over the past 72 hours, so I'm glad I got that right finally. And then the Baltimore Ravens in a pretty good matchup, pretty good game with the Commanders, take care of business at home. And they're 4-2 as well, after starting off 0-2.
Yeah.
So we're 2-4, and we'll talk about our matchup with the Browns a little bit at the end of this, but you'll catch a lot more of that Wednesday on the Running Through the Jungle. That's when we go live at 8:05. If you want to check us out on YouTube, get over there, get in that chat. If you have any questions for us, want us to steer the direction wherever you want us to. Guys, real quick, AFC North games. Anything that stuck out to you from our opponents here in the AFC North before we get into our game?
I mean, for me, the AFC North games just went about exactly as I thought that they were. Starting with the Ravens and the Commanders. I mean, everybody was hyping up that game because of how, rightfully so, how Jaden Daniels is producing since he started this, his rookie year, and he's been looking great. But I knew that they were going to run into a buzzsaw against Baltimore. I mean, he still made plays. That fourth down conversion that he threw for a touchdown at Terry McLaurin was absolutely a thing of beauty. And it wasn't like that the DB, Brandon Stevens, I believe, didn't have good coverage on it. He had amazing coverage. It was just a great throw. And I mean, I've already sat here and ate crow on a reaction show after we watched after the Bengals played against, who was it? The Carolina Panthers, I believe. I ate crow at the time about saying that, look, Jaden Daniels, I said he was good, and I do believe in his career, but I didn't think he was going to be that good. And he's been proving me wrong ever since. I mean, I'm thinking that he's going to run away. I won't say run away, but he's definitely in the driver's seat to win Rookie of the Year for sure.
Definitely.
But Caleb Williams is also doing pretty good too.
He's closed that gap over the past 2 weeks for sure.
He certainly has, man. And Caleb Williams has certainly found his footing. And I think that is going to be a close, tight-knit race. So I did expect the Baltimore Ravens to win that game. They're at home. I feel like that they're in a groove now. This is when the real part of the season starts, where teams figure themselves out. But I also thought it was very funny because what you heard was a lot of Ravens fans were stating, and a lot of people say this, that the Ravens defense was just bad. They were bad. That's why they gave up all those points against Cincinnati and stuff. And then they ended up playing good against the Commanders. They also played great the week prior to that against the Buffalo Bills, and for a large part of the game against the Dallas Cowboys, where Dallas just couldn't get anything. I didn't care about the garbage time yards that Dak threw. The bottom line is Joe Burrow and that offense was just on fire that day, and that was a game we should have won. But I expected the Ravens to win. As far as like the Steelers go, again, it's the Raiders. Do you really think that the Raiders were going to pull that game off with starting Aiden O'Connell and going against that Pittsburgh Steelers defense? No. I mean, it was an ugly game between those two teams, and then Pittsburgh just pulled it off late, added some few more scores and whatnot. I would say the biggest surprise to me was, even though it really is not that surprising based off of how he's looked, is the Cleveland Browns and Deshaun Watson just still looking bad. I'm more surprised that the Philadelphia Eagles returning both A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith in the lineup, it seemed like that they couldn't even stave off Cleveland at home. That was supposed to be like a head and shoulders matchup better than the Cleveland Browns. And it felt like the Eagles were like this close to losing that game too. But ultimately, I just knew the Browns, they just wasn't good enough to pull it out in the end. And the AFC North just went exactly how I expected it to go.
You know, it's funny. I'll start with the Eagles Browns in our pay dirt thread. I told Pay, I said something doesn't smell right. Like somebody knows something. Almost 90% of the bets placed on DraftKings were placed on the Eagles, and yet that line went from 9.5 to 8. I was like, that doesn't make sense. Where the Browns are getting 9.5, and before kickoff time, it goes all the way down to 8, even though majority of the bets were placed on the Eagles. So when something like that's happening, normally what you see is that's the wise guys. Like that's the big money in Vegas are coming in on the Browns. That's the only way that thing moves that way. So that's a weird. It was a weird game. I didn't trust it from the get-go. As soon as I started that, I was like, abort, get away, get away. Something's wrong.
Yeah, that was a stay away game for me too.
But listen, you know, to do a little comparison shopping here, because we are playing them in our next game. You know, Joe Burrow was really kind of distraught about how the offense played and how he played and whatever. And he threw for 200 yards. Deshaun Watson's yet to throw for 200 yards this season. So it tells you how it's going right now for them in Cleveland, which is going to get, you'll see on Wednesday, probably me draw a line in the dirt, because that if they're going to play like that, you can't bring yourself down to their level. The Steelers-Raiders game, again, you know, you look at it, it's 145 yards passing from Justin Fields. Najee Harris finally got a 100-yard rushing game, which is good for him. Their number one receiver is George Pickens. He had 53 yards. It's just nothing, you know, great here, right? What'd you have? You had TJ Watt stripping the ball. They were playing on short fields. You had a punt block. You had a bunch of Steeler-esque things happen, and they compounded them together, and that's how they get to 30 points. I still watch our team and their teams, and at our best, all the teams at our best, I think right now the Baltimore Ravens are the best team, but I don't think the gap's small enough between when we're playing our best and they're playing their best that Joe Burrow can make up the gap.
Joe Burrow himself, he can absolutely, and he's playing at his best, of course, and that's alongside, even when Lamar plays at his best, they're about on the same level this season. And that's even with the deficiencies the Bengals have on defense of not playing well, and we'll get into that as far as the game goes, though. Mm-hmm. But in all honesty, it's just a record just that makes you feel that way, if that there being a substantial gap. If you take the record aside and throw the records out, or if the ball bounces a different way in those first
Yeah.
few weeks of the season, man, the Bengals and the Ravens are literally neck and neck, like the two best teams in the AFC. And guess what? Last year, you were saying that before Burrow went down with his injury. Joe Burrow and the Bengals and the Ravens, that was your two best teams, with the Chiefs probably sandwiched between those two. And that's how you
listen,
define
Justin, you're talking about the ball bouncing a little bit different. The NFL overturns a touchdown call that they admit should have been a touchdown. We win week one. One pass interference, which I believe was pass interference called against the Chiefs. If we avoid that penalty, there's 2 wins. Now we have the same record. Tim, what was your take on the AFC North games and where we stand with the AFC North division right now?
I agree with you guys. I think Baltimore's the team to possibly win the AFC North. There's no doubt about that right now. With the Bengals being 2-4, maybe if we were 4-2, also maybe be a little bit lean a different direction because say if we did lose against the Ravens still like we did do. But I think the Ravens are the top AFC North team right now. They kind of didn't make sense to me in the beginning of the year when they lost to Las Vegas. But then they kind of turned around. They beat the hell out of the Bills. But this weekend for me is, Deshaun Watson. He was sacked 27 times in 5 weeks. Week 6 comes around, he got sacked 5 more times. 32 sacks this year. I'm no Browns fan, but I don't think that offensive line and that team is playing for Deshaun with Deshaun Watson. And I just don't feel like they want him on the team. Like, for your quarterback to get sacked last year they had the best offensive line in the AFC North. That I don't care what anybody says. They had the best offensive line. But then he's getting sacked 32 times in 6 games. They're 1-5. I know Nick Chubb's out. If I was Nick Chubb, I'd stay on the IR because I wouldn't want to get hurt again. But other than that,
he's coming back for us.
Yeah, that's what I see. When it comes to the Steelers and the Ravens game, Steelers depended on their defense once again. Go figure. It's a typical Steeler football way. Nothing ever changes because their offense hasn't been anything for the last 3 years. So they're dependent on their defense. They made the defense stepped up and they made the plays that they needed to play. The Lamar Jackson versus the Commanders and Jaden Daniels. I love that kid. I think he's going to be a really good football player in the years to come. Unfortunately they lost. I was rooting for them. Of course, they were playing against the Ravens. But it was a good game. It was like I said, it was proven that the Ravens and Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, they're the team to beat, and just more football to come. And thank God we have to play them one more time. Hopefully we can get our actual revenge game back on them.
Yeah, listen, we're behind, but it's not all over with yet. I mean, there's a lot of football still to play. So
yeah.
Good takes on that, guys. Listen, we're gonna get over to a quick break, hear from our partners. When we come back, from here on out, it's all Bengals talk all the time. So stick with us, and we'll be right back talking Bengals. All right, welcome back to the Roaring Reactions. I'm your host, Brandon Harry, here with your host, Tim Lyons, and your host, Justin Lacey. What's going on, fellas?
Yippity-yer. Just leaving New York with a win. That's all I'm got. I'm glad to have that happen for now.
Had to have it. I'll tell you what, it wasn't pretty, and that got me to thinking of changing this subject up a little bit. Normally we just go off the cuff with, what's your first reactions to the game? What's your first reactions to this before we start getting in and breaking stuff down? I will go about it a little bit differently. I'm going to give each one of us a topic. We'll just start. We'll go left to right, start at the top, because listen, as a good host you should know your co-hosts. and I might be saving the best for last year. I might be saving a little bit of that Juddy rant. I'm just saying. I'll start with you, Tim. The good, the bad, the ugly. Tim, give me your good from this game.
Well, good for this game. It's obvious. Our defense played defense. You know, they didn't let Daniel Jones and the New York Giants just throw the ball down the field and bully ball us down the field at all. You know, so that was absolutely just great to see that the defense stepped up and played probably, you know what, I'm not gonna say probably, played the best game of the entire year. You know, they really did. They kept them to 7 points. Daniel Jones kind of helped us along with that because he couldn't complete a pass if he handed it to them. So it was, you know, but the defense, you know, they played well. They stepped up well. Mike Hilton, you know, was playing good ball, and, you know, Trey Hendrickson and BJ Hill and, you know, all those guys, they were playing really good. Yeah, that's, you know, that was the good for me. Yeah.
All right. The bad.
Did you want me to? Oh, okay. Go ahead.
I'll take the bad. No, you got the good. You did good. You did good. See, Tim, you're the good in our setup here. I'll take the bad. I'm gonna say the bad is only putting up 17 points against the Giants. And more specifically, Joe Burrow cannot be your leading rusher. It's not. I mean, it's just not an equation for success. Now, listen, Joe Burrow almost hit 20 mile an hour. You know, I'll give him his respect. You know, he took off and he made it, and he did a great job. But I just think it was player issues. There were coaching issues. There were a lot of different things I felt like that just – you got to start putting some drives together against this team. You got to be able to make some splash plays. You got to put up more than 17 points against the Giants. And in all honesty, we really put up 10 points until they sold out to stop the run, and Chase Brown popped one there at the very end. So that's going to be my bad. My bad is got to put up more points against the Giants, especially. Justin, I saved the ugly for you, and I would place a bet on where this is going to go. So
for me,
what is your ugly?
For me, the ugly is the overall win itself. Joe Burrow even said it. It was just ugly. An ugly day at the office. Just things just kept happening that you did not expect to happen. But at the end of the day, you won. Okay? It wasn't pretty. Clearly, we've seen a lot of pretty losses. I will take the ugly win over the pretty losses any day because it's still a win in the win column. But when you have things like a weird holding call to wipe away a touchdown run that Chase Brown had, that would have been his second touchdown run of the day, so to speak, or at least a touchdown that would have firmly put the Bengals ahead and give them more driving momentum. Instead, it was a sack, and then now you got to settle for a field goal. Those kind of things are very frustrating because it's like, this is ugly. And it wasn't really a holding penalty when you watch it again. And then the fumble that Chase Brown had before breaking off the touchdown run. This was after the 3rd and 12 that Joe Burrow had converted in clutch formatting power. It was an ugly day at the office for the offense, but he still puts on his shoulders in the Superman capes and wills you to that conversion to basically just ice the game. And then Chase Brown almost fumbles that ball, loses that fumble, but thank God it goes out of bounds. That mercilessly went out of bounds to save you the opportunity to put the game on ice right then and there, because if the Giants would have recovered, I'm not saying I believe in Daniel Jones and the offense, but that defense was gashed. That defense was just tired. They could have used the rest of the timeouts that they stated, still slightly 2 minutes to go, and they would have probably went down the field and probably missed the field goal anyway. But whatever the case it may be, it was just still an ugly sequences of events. Thank God, though, Chase Brown redeemed himself really quickly on that 3rd and 3, just ran it right down the throats, scampered into the end zone. 17-7, at that point, you already knew, good. We're going to win this game. But, man, could we not have sweat dripping down our palms and our backs and everywhere you go when it comes to these wins? Can we just please, for the love of God, have a comfortable win? So at some point this season, this could have been the game, but instead we had to settle for the ugly win.
That fumble by Chase Brown that went out of bounds was the moment that Tim found out I was laying in bed with everybody in my house sleeping. Tim, what was my reply to you? Do you remember?
If I remember correctly, wasn't it something like you were puckering your cheeks,
Yes.
but you're also trying to be quiet enough to not wake up the fiance and the dogs.
Yeah. I said, "Oh, that made my butt pucker," was what I said. And he said, "I'm yelling at the TV." I said, "I can't yell. Everybody in my house is asleep. I can't yell."
I was yelling.
I tell you what, I thought you were going to go. My ugly was the play of the offensive line.
That was more or less bad. I didn't want to go into that. That was just bad overall. But yeah, it was ugly too with that too. But I didn't want to take that just because that's me spilling that over into the bed. But man, to see the O-line just get killed on missing assignments, Mims getting killed for sacks, and it just felt like that the whole entire defensive line of the Giants just basically just won the day against the Bengals O-line. And we already said that Dexter Lawrence was going to be a monster to stop.
Yeah.
But missing their guy, Kayvon Thibodeau.
I didn't expect it from the outside the way they got it.
I didn't expect it from the outside. I thought
I told
we
you
won
guys.
that matchup.
No, I told you guys on our
Wednesday
show.
What you said.
I said I was concerned with Brian Burns and Thibodeau. If Thibodeau was not on there. But Brian Burns caused havoc, and what was that other guy's name?
You said Dexter Lawrence, though. You just said Dexter Lawrence.
I said him too, but no. But they had Oben Joby or
no, they have Azeez Ojulari, who also got a sack as well too.
Yeah.
But I felt like the Bengals tackles and the rest of the O-line was going to neutralize their pass rush on the outside, at least because I thought that they had the matchups being that our tackles are playing better. But man, it was just missed assignments. That was ugly too. But yeah, it was just. Like Amarius Mims got out of his stance late before the guy already blew past him.
Yeah, what was he looking at? I texted him and said, "What's he doing?"
Yeah, like
he was looking for his tater tots.
Like man, it's like and then Orlando Brown Jr. He gets beat by a crazy one-arm stab move and a swim move inside for a sack, and I'm just like, guys, you guys got to get this thing together. It was. We know that that's not their prototypical standard that they play. I think that they'll right the ship and get better as the season progresses, but. Man, that was ugly, but I just put that more into the bad category, more so than the ugly category.
Man, it went beyond bad for me. That's why I saved it for the ugly.
They blew it. It's just like I felt like we wanted long developing plays against this Giant secondary, and that it just wasn't happening.
Yeah, and it's weird because that's not normally been the MO of this coaching staff, right?
Nah.
Right. Coaching staff has been looking for short pass first, and then all of a sudden, when you've got a team that's, we knew going in has really good pass rush, has causes problems up the middle and the outside, and then they're like, you know what, this is when we're going to really try and throw it down the field. Now that said, there were some of those hurries and scrambles and stuff from Joe Burrow that. Screw 2.5 seconds. He was getting 0.8.
Yeah.
Brandon texts me. He goes, Joe Burrow's just getting 0.8 seconds, breaking Burrow, season 3. Here we go.
Yeah.
And, unfortunately for us, as you were watching the game, Joe Burrow was happy feet that whole entire second half. He was really happy feet. He was, he knew it was coming. He felt the pressure. He was happy feet, and it just didn't pan out.
I'm not kidding you. I don't think that I would say almost half of his dropbacks the second half of the game, he didn't even get to plant.
Yeah.
Like he didn't even actually plant on a 5-step drop or a 3-step drop. He literally 1, 2, 3 was taking off right, taking off left, stepping up. Like it was always moving and not being able to plant and survey.
Yeah.
Right. That man can do a lot with 2 seconds. He don't need the average 2.5.
Man, look, and also too, how the season has gone is that when the offense has their moment, and Joe Burrow has his moment, especially on third down, it always felt like that he was getting sacked in these critical moments. So when 3rd and 18 came on the first drive of the game, that he scampered and ran for the touchdown. I thought he was going to get sacked or throw a bubble screen and they fall short or whatever the case it was. We had to punt the ball. On the end of the game, the 3rd and 12, I thought he was just going to get sacked again. My mind was conditioned to go to that point, man. First of all, it was a rough day at the office for the O-line in general, but that's just what's been happening. When you have these clear moments, that for Joe Burrow to have that moment, it hasn't been happening so far this year. Last week against the Baltimore Ravens, remember the final drive before for overtime, the final drive. Yeah, all 3 timeouts, less than 2 minutes. The first play of that drive, sacked. and that just ruined the whole entire drive and that whole sequence. You had to settle for overtime. I just thought in the back of my head, like the way how the season is going, 3rd and 12, they're going to probably send the house and they're going to probably doubt the blitz. That defensive coordinator, Shane Bowen for the Giants, tip my cap to him. It seemed like that he also remembers his times during the Titans where the Bengals and Titans saw each other quite often, and he used that to his advantage. You can tell. It's like, I know these guys. And, but Joe Burrow converted. He put the Superman cape on, put the team on his back. It's great. It wasn't pretty, but it just – I don't know why he was getting hit so much, and then everybody had their gas of breath when he went into the blue medical tent to evaluate him for a concussion. Jamar Chase dropping a wide open pass that would have caught, and he probably would have screamed, scampered into the end zone from there because he was open from there. But all of that stuff was just in a culmination of the fact that the game overall was just ugly. That's why that was my choice.
Yeah.
Well, and you can't play, especially when you have that much firepower and stuff. You can't play tight. The guys, like, I felt like there was a better sense of urgency with the defense, right? The defense tackled better. The defense played a little more feisty, a little more fiery, which I think they needed to ramp up, right?
Hell yeah.
But I get concerned about the Joe Burrow comments like, I got to play perfect. No. That's impossible, right? Go out there, have some fun, throw the ball around, run the ball, move the ball. You got to play with enthusiasm and like almost a playful enthusiasm to me on offense for the way this offense plays for this team to have its best success. On defense, you play a little more fiery, play a little more tense, right? On offense, you got to play with a youthful exuberance, I think, for this team. Like I want to see, T and Chase and Yoshi, and let's not understate the fact, just the confidence that Joe Burrow has in Yoshi Boss.
Yeah.
Man, throws him touchdowns and first downs, and that's it.
Yep.
When he's got to have it, that's who gets the ball a lot of the time.
It was that moment to where, I wish during the Andy Dalton era, it was like, man, when things were not going great, but yet you can be like, oh my gosh, boy, our quarterback really rescued us and saved us and basically just gutted it out to a win. It was that you wish that you could have said about the Andy Dalton era, even during the Palmer era too at times. I'll say that as well. But man, Joe Burrow just gave you that feeling again, like, boy, man, it was a shitty day, lack of better terms to say it. It was a terrible day, but man, our quarterback really he really wanted to have this one. Things were not going well, but yet when it mattered the most, he still got it. He's still Joe Shiesty. He's still Joe Butter. He still can put the ice on the back. He can still throw it with ice and then close out the game. And I was very happy to see that in that moment. I didn't like the fumbling. Zach Moss fumbled and lost his fumble. Chase Brown fumbled too, but he did get a chance to redeem himself. But man, you gotta start with making the better decisions when it comes to game days and who you're putting out there first. Because I can say this confidently that moving forward, Chase Brown needs to be your RB1. It's a done deal. Yep. Nothing against Zach Moss, but he's more like a P. Ryan replacement more than a Mixon replacement. He has no burst. He has no acceleration to his game. Yes, you like him in this back protection to pass protection and whatnot to an extent, but Joe was getting hit all day long anyway, so it didn't matter. So,
you know where I think Zach Moss is a great fit for this team? If you have third and 3 on like the 40, and you've decided that this is a situation where you could run or check into a pass, and if you don't pick it up, you're going to go for it on 4th down. It's Zach Moss time, because you can run a trap with him. You can hand the ball off, and he's not going to do the wide sweep, get a 5-yard loss very often, right? He can pick up the blitz. Then if Joe Burrow checks out of it, he can block fairly well. That's like his sweet spot to me, in that kind of second or third and short. If you want to run him in there to spell, and he could take a whole series if you want to spell Chase Brown for a bit.
Yeah.
So that's a good flexibility to have. I'm not upset with what we have there. Looking at Mixon now playing in Houston,
he fits their offense better, and I feel like that Joe Mixon, he still would be doing the same thing he did last year here in this season.
They want to run those stretch plays, and he's in zone blocking, and that's just not the way he runs.
And then before the season started, we already knew that the running back position was the weakest part of the offense. And we already knew that games like this was going to happen at some point. And it did. And now that it's behind us, now we can move on. There probably is going to be others and whatnot. But all I'm pretty much saying is believe in the explosiveness of a Chase Brown, even though I know he had a fumble that could have been lost, even though he had a fumble as well, too. The makeup and the mentality that he has showed to redeem himself, he has great athleticism. He can hit the holes great. It's just when Zach Moss is on the field, he doesn't threaten anybody. And, Joe Burrow has to make Zach Moss look better than what he is. And that just gets tiring after a while. We saw that with Samaje Perine. For all those Samaje Perine believers out there that wanted to start Perine over Mixon, that's what you're going to get with Zach Moss. He can be okay for a while, but he's not the long-term answer. And I think the Bengals already known that. I think they just need to see Chase Brown develop into that role first. But I'm just hoping that they can just say, all right, let's just make the switch. Because moving forward, you need to have a stabilized rushing attack, and one that people fear when they see that guy in the backfield. You got a game plan for Joe to either hand it off, whether if it's under center and shotgun, or throw it into him. And that's Chase Brown for you. That's always been that guy.
And I think that looking crystal ball, looking forward, I think some of our earlier draft picks, depending on how certain things shake up, obviously we need more help on the defensive line, and I think we need more help at linebacker, corners. I mean, just on the defense in general, we might need wide receiver help. We might need some other things there. But I think later rounds, try to hit one of those running backs. Try to find your Isaiah Pacheco so that you have thunder and lightning, right? Mm-hmm. Find somebody that runs like their hair's on fire and see if they can do anything here. If nothing else, I think out of that position and drafting somebody late round, 6th, 7th round, and trying to find that person, at least you're going to get somebody that's going to be good and add something to special teams.
Yeah.
So I think that's depth piece that we probably look at next year. Tim, anything you want to add to the good, the bad, and the ugly before we start giving out game balls?
I said it last night, and I know some of y'all are going to be pissed at me for saying it. Cam Taylor-Britt, he's not the answer to our CB1. He's just not. He's making mistakes week after week. And I know I told Brandon, and I ain't gonna tell you what I texted him, but I wasn't happy with Cam Taylor-Britt. I haven't been happy with Cam Taylor-Britt for the last couple of weeks, and we really need to do something and just bring in a veteran cornerback, someone that to be able to put him in there to show Cam Taylor-Britt how to be a real CB1. I just don't have faith in him as a cornerback one, maybe like Brandon said, 2 or 3, and I agree with that. I just don't have faith in him. I'm afraid that, when we go and play against, the Ravens again, and even the Eagles with, AJ Brown and Deontay Adams or Adams.
Devontae Smith.
Smith. I'm sorry, Smith. I'm so sorry. I'm getting mixed brain here. But, I just feel like we're going to need help because last year, teams picked on DJ Turner last year. They're going to start picking on Cam Taylor-Britt this year because he's just not on those like comeback routes from the wide receivers. he's getting just beat up on him than if they, or he's just real slow on the play recognition. I don't know what the problem is.
I honestly thought I actually thought DJ Turner played better than him this game. I thought DJ Turner played pretty well.
Yeah, he did. He did.
I did also like seeing Jordan Battle back out there.
Yeah. Yeah, but that was kind of like the bad for this game. The ugly, you guys already mentioned it, but I'm just hoping that our defense comes out there and play and finishes off this season like they did played like they played last night, and we just continue to see it get better.
It blocked somebody.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I regress. All right, well, it's time to give out some game balls. I think Justin has to stop here and go to the store to get enough game balls to give out. Tim, I'll let you give out your game ball. Who you got for offensive game ball in this game?
I'm going to give it to running back number 9. He had 55 yards rushing, 1 touchdown, and he threw for 208 yards. Joe Burrow is my offensive game ball with no doubt. I know he got that touchdown, and he almost got 20 speed. But he didn't play well. But I'm still going to give him my game ball.
He played well enough.
Yeah,
Justin, game ball on offense.
Obviously, I have a beat of selections, but I'm just going to stick with one. For me, it's going to be T. Higgins. He was the primary target for Joe Burrow in the passing game. Jamar was getting doubled up. He was getting locked up. I mean, I'll just call it what it is. Jamar didn't have his best outing, even though he did have one hell of a catch against when scramble drill. That was just remarkable. I thought that he was
still had 5 for 72 on an off game. That's how good he's been.
Explosive he is, and that one catch that accounted for majority of those yards. But it wasn't his best day. But for 72 yards, that's a pretty good off day to have.
Yeah,
and he still made one of the bigger game breaking catches to and just to help bail the offense out. Like Joe Burrow knew he can throw it to him, but T. Higgins was the guy for me that always seemed to just find himself to be open, make the tough catches going across the middle, taking big hits. You got worried for him when he took a bigger hit to the shoulder and he had to come out the game for a little bit. He just was just mentally tough and physically tough as well too. And he secured those catches. Even though there was a couple of bobbles in there, he still caught them. And I was very impressed with what I saw. So he's getting my offensive game ball, even though I know I can spread it out to a BV of others on offense.
Well, let me go ahead and agree with you here, and then I'll kick it back to you for your honorable mentions. My game ball goes to T. Higgins too. Not only for the 7 catches, 77 yards, but the attitude in which he did it. I feel like it's something we need, and we need to see more of. He was embracing contact. He was running hard after catch, fighting against the other team. Things that I think like gut check time, I want to see out of my team. And T. Higgins, this is a guy that went through contract dispute. This is a guy not happy about being on the franchise tag. But when it's time to play ball, all that luggage is packed up and gone. He plays ball. And I think that's a gem, and those people, like, our team needs to see that. The Bengals need to see that. And the Bengals need to kind of embrace that attitude, I think, a little bit more. And I think it helps put the rest of the league on notice that when healthy, it's a bad dude.
Yep.
So I'll give it back to you for your honorable mentions, Justin.
My honorable mention is only going to be one other person. That's Chase Brown. Now, for the reason I've already stated before, but I'll mention it briefly here again. It's because he has firmly supplanted himself and ascended himself into the RB1 role over Zach Moss. And I feel like that the Bengals coaches need to let's just rip the Band-Aid off and just go ahead and do it. This is our guy. This is the guy that's going to get the snaps. Stop trying to sell us on the Zach Moss comparison combo when we already kind of know that it's not going to work really long term. Teams have gotten smarter. The defense has got smarter for the opposing teams are going to figure it out. When Zach Moss is in the game, We know he's in there for pass pro. We're not going to count on him getting a ton of yards. That's Chase Brown. Chase Brown can pass protect a bit there as well to himself, but he's more explosive. Use your best attributes. Use your best talent. Stop stashing them in the basement and then bringing them out for a surprise later when the secret's already out. Just play him. Just play the guy. So he's my honorable mention. I didn't want to put him as my first, even though he got the game-sealing touchdown, because he did have the fumble that it was almost lost. Okay, but I just think that he just played well enough, though, that he's your starting running back moving forward.
Yeah, he definitely he got real close to being the GOAT, but he escaped it. So I'm gonna let him go. He definitely I like the excitement he brings to the game. So I'm with you on that one. Tim, defensive game ball. Who you got?
Oh, man. You know, I want to just give the game ball to the whole defense because they kept the Giants to scoring 7 points.
You're just gonna cut it into ribbons like when they cut down a net and give a piece of it out? You're just gonna give a piece of the game ball to everybody?
Yeah, we could, maybe make some strings out of the game ball and give it to all. But I'm gonna say game ball is gonna go to, because I think he played very well. I think he came back from an injury from a couple weeks ago, and then he actually played a really good ball. I know, he doesn't have, he didn't have 2 sacks or an interception or whatever, but I'm gonna say BJ Hill. BJ Hill just played great ball. He was noticed. He was a defensive, just defensive pressure every single snap, even on the runs and stuff. I just want to give it to BJ Hill because he played great ball from coming off an injury, coming back home to New York. I'm giving it to BJ Hill.
I said something to you during the game last night, and Chris Jenkins, I think, does some good as far as plugging up the hole. I feel really bad for that dude right now with that broken thumb because he can't manipulate and move guys in the pocket to get off of the block in order to make a tackle, right? So I've watched Lou Anarumo as he was putting him in. They were almost always running stunts when Chris Jenkins came in so that Chris Jenkins could pick off other guys. Because there was one play, and I was sitting there. I started laughing. I go, watch this, number 76 getting ready to fly through this replay. And my girl like, what? I was like, just watch. Number 76 is going to fly through this replay. And they show he's going around the end to try to make a sack or try to run the ball or something, rush the passer. I mean, I think it was Trey Hendrickson, and all of a sudden, 76 just comes tumbling through the picture, and she was like, "What was that?" And I go, "Chris Jenkins threw that dude like he was a child." So I wish he was helped. Like Rankin's back, BJ Hill back, Chris Jenkins with a hand he could use. I think we're getting better, closer to sewing up some of that defensive line woes that we've had. Love to see what Jackson McKinley can do once he's back healthy and whatever, and help out just spelling guys a little bit. But I also give my game ball to BJ Hill. All that said, he was the guy that stood out to me. He was the catalyst, and coming back off of that injury, like you worry, is he going to be winded? Like, let's be honest, defensive linemen aren't meant to just run. Man, that guy was the Energizer Bunny. He just kept going. So that was my game ball as well. I thought what he brought to the team, firing guys up, talking that mess, throwing, trying to get his guys into it. I appreciated that the most. Justin, defensive game ball.
No, I do agree with you guys with BJ Hill. He was a listed recipient of one of my game balls on defense, but I am shouting out the whole entire defense for stepping up finally. But my game ball personally is going to Mike Hilton. This guy's presence on the field was much needed. That secondary played so much better. And contrary to what you stated, Tim, about Cam Taylor-Britt, I thought he played better than what he has shown on Sunday night. It felt like that he wasn't getting beat deep. Well, the Giants can't throw deep really anyway. I wasn't fearful of any deep throws that Daniel Jones was throwing. But when he did, I just was so confident. It's like, it ain't going nowhere. It ain't going to land in the bucket. Nobody was getting crazy beaten like that for real. And it felt like that the tackles was just immediately made because they weren't just always going for the strip. They were just, sure, they gave us some curl routes here and there on the sideline. That's easy stuff. And that's stuff like with that Giants offense, that's what they game plan for, to help Daniel Jones get comfortable and settle in. That's what they do. They're not an offense where they want Daniel Jones to try to be Superman. He's already shown them that he's not that guy. He's not a franchise quarterback. He has a lot of questions to answer. And I also had to admit, Daniel Jones has actually been playing a little bit better since week 1. He's been playing a little bit conservatively better, I should say, and not trying to turn the ball over so much. So for the defense to get an interception off of a pressure, and then Jermaine Pratt got the INT. But I felt like Mike Hilton set the tone when he had the players only meeting and called that defensive meeting with the players.
Agreed.
It was him that started that. Nobody else did it, but he did. And I felt like when he showed himself on the field, they were getting third down stops. Yes, they went for it on 4th and 2 and all that. And it got frustrating because they felt like they was always getting a conversion. But it was Mike Hilton that was being fantastic and making open field reads and tackles. And it wasn't just like it was just, he wasn't missing assignments. I didn't see any missed tackles, I don't believe, last night. And that just made me feel so good about the direction of where the secondary could potentially head towards as they start to stack up these blue chip caliber type of play styles against these other teams with lesser talent or lesser quarterbacks that they're going to be going to, lesser offenses overall. When you're going against the Browns, when you're going against the Eagles, who you have a better offense than, let's just call it what it is, I want to feel better about this defense, more specifically this secondary. But with the addition of Mike Hilton being back from his 1 week absence, man, him just the slot corner blitzes to do those tackles for loss was something that I definitely missed. He should have been on the field last week, and we would have loved to have him against Baltimore, because Derrick Henry would not have gone off for that 51-yard rushing that run the way that if he was on the field, I would have felt like to believe. But he's getting my game ball for that reason. He was the leader. I know BJ Hill, I agree with all of you. He was the guy that it just felt like that he was like playing like a man possessed against his former team. He got a lot of pressures. He was the one guy that got the pressure that led to the interception.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely agree with that.
No doubt.
And I just feel like that, yeah, it would have just been a very culminative effort. He would have gotten the sack. But I think the whole entire defense just finally just decided to bull their necks up a bit and then play Bengals AFC North football. I finally saw it. That's what I wanted to see. They did it for the first half against the Ravens, and they should have been able to continue it on. And I'm happy to see that they did it tonight. They did it against the Giants.
Listen, I agree with you. With the caveat, man, I know he played good last week in Seattle, but it's still Daniel Jones. So that I do, sure. Listen, you're not going to get a large degree of difficulty. You said his name and it made Tim yawn. What I need from the Bengals is take that from last week, shake it off if you're the offense, if you're defense, stack chips and start playing that way. Start having that mentality. You got to go into Cleveland, which, hey, they haven't been playing well, but guess what else? We don't win there.
We haven't won since 2017, the season that they didn't win any games.
Let's go get this. Let's take care of business before we look at Philadelphia, before we look at Las Vegas, before we look at we're in a situation right now, dug a hole. So this game is very important. We need to beat the Browns. And if you want to get our opinions on how the Bengals can and will and should do that, Wednesday, 8:05 p.m. Eastern time. You can tune in live on YouTube. Come on over there, live chat. I'm sure Austin's Art will be over there and a couple of other folks. You guys can join, ask questions if you'd like. If not, wherever you get your podcast, you can follow us over there, Apple, Spotify, wherever, and listen at your leisure. Also, the music sounds good in the car. The background music and the play it in and play it out stuff does sound good in the car. I like that. It sounds better than me in the car. I can tell you that. I promise you that. Any party shots before we get out of here?
Yeah, I just got done finished coughing up a nasty little phlegm, so my apologies there. But yeah,
you're the real phlegm VP, Justin.
Phlegm VP. I like that. Yeah, I mean, I don't like not one bit, but you know, that's a funny pun. I like it. But my parting shot is, man, I'm not taking this win with any sort of serious attitude of, oh, you know, I get so sick and tired of hearing Bengals fans on Bengals Twitter or anybody that just says we're so back. That is the most overused phrase since last year, and I wish people would just stop it, but it's not going to stop. You make one catch and somebody's going to say, we're so back. Shut up, okay? We're not back by any stretch of imagination. But we do have confidence that this team can rattle off a lot of wins and get into the postseason, because the rest of the AFC, as far as like the landscape goes, man, I can pick flaws with every single one of them. And that includes the team who I think stands as the best right now, and that's the Baltimore Ravens with 2 losses. No one else scares me. Even the Chiefs. They're undefeated now, but they're going to probably see an L next Sunday against the 49ers. And then you never know. Certain things may start snowballing for some of these teams that are crowned the best right now. Baltimore still has to face their division opponents, and they don't do well against the Ravens. The Ravens don't do well really against the Steelers. They struggle against the Browns too, as of recent. So with that being said, this season is not over by any stretch of the imagination. We still have a long way to go, but we got to just caution ourselves of celebrating too soon until the Bengals prove it. But this upcoming week against the Cleveland Browns at Cleveland, like you stated and we stated, they haven't won since 2017.
Got to win
that
one.
will be another confident booster if you go in there in their season right then and there, and then come back home to Cincinnati and be prepared to go on even more of a hotter streak. Then that will start to make you feel like, okay, I think we can really pull this off. But until we do that, we got to see that first. So great win, ugly win, but let's do it again.
Tim, anything from you?
Yeah, I agree with Justin 110%. You know, I don't want these people thinking just because we beat the New York Giants that we're back. No, let's slow your roll a little bit. Slow your roll. You know, yeah, it's nice that we got another number in the win column. You know, that's great. But we're still 2-4. That we ain't back yet. When we're, you know, maybe over 500, you know, winning some more games, beating some opponents that we need to beat. But other than that, I really don't have very much to say besides, you know, come check me out on Who Day Weekly tomorrow. I'll go over who the top point getters were from yesterday's game or from this weekend's games. And then I'll also give a little recap to the Cincinnati Bengals, and maybe I'll think of something else to do because I've been kind of new and playing with this Who Day Weekly. I know it's, you know, kind of straightforward to the point, you know, and I try writing up stuff, and but I appreciate you guys, you know, supporting me and being there for me. So thank you.
All right. Listen, I know a lot of you are probably going to look at the stuff in the back and say this is a little bit of homerism. Might be a little bit in here. But even if I wasn't a Michigan fan, listen, Aiden Hutchinson is one of the most exciting players to watch in the NFL. If you didn't get to see his gruesome injury, do not go look for it.
Don't look at that.
No.
That was disgusting. That was borderline Tim Crumrye.
It was pretty bad. Broken tibia and fibula. But reports came out today. Had a very successful surgery in Dallas and is expected to make a full recovery in 6 to 8 months.
Oh.
Did not know if that was going to be the facts when he left the field with his leg pointing in the wrong direction. You never know about nerve damage and blood vessel damage and all the other things that can happen there. And for now, it seems like he's escaped that and got pretty lucky. So prayers to Aiden Hutchinson. He was leading the league in sacks when he left the game. Shame to see. He took kind of the NFL won a lot of hearts in the NFL with his singing on what's on a Hard Knock show? Yeah, as the rookie singing. So, I just love his motor. The guy never quits, never stops on a play. Kind of heart and soul of that Detroit Lions game. Now, I think they've got enough at the Lions to still be really good and possibly win that NFC, but to be determined. But prayers for Aiden Hutchinson. Terrible he has to go, but I mean, it's football. It's a violent sport. Things happen. All right, join us. As Tim said, check for him on the Who Day Weekly and join us again on Running Through the Jungle, 8:05 Eastern Time live on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. And we will see you folks later. We out.